All right, good evening. I have 5:30, so let's call our meeting to order and let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll ask board members to review the consent agenda items. If there are no requests to pull an item for discussion, we'll move along to the meeting agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, there we have a motion and second on the agenda. Any further discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, show of hands, all in favor of approval of the agenda? Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. We have an agenda. All right, that brings us to reports and presentations. Ella White, good news.
Do I need to click something to get it up on the monitor? Did it go up? Is it up there? There we go. All right. I wanted to, first of all, say thank you for the board for having us here tonight. We are excited to share some of the great things going on at Ella White. I wanted to thank the community for being here tonight, and our families, thank you so much for bringing our amazing students to be a part of this tonight. So I thought a lot about what we wanted to share with you tonight, and what we decided was to share with you some nuggets of creativity that are happening at Ella White that support the whole child. So as you all are very aware, part of the strategic plan, or one of the pillars, is whole child development. That has a lot to do with those positive behavioral supports that are in place, and making sure that we're focusing on not just the academics, but all things that lead into development of great students. So, I think it was last year, Claire shared with me that she had this idea for a 5th grade choir. She thought not only would it be beneficial for our kiddos, because it develops leadership, it develops their musical ability, and it gives them something that they're really passionate and excited about, but it also helps the greater APS choir program, because hopefully they get a little bit excited about it and then want to take it further at the junior high and high school. So we got a little creative, and that little seed of an idea turned into our Soar Singers. They are a passionate group of kiddos who bring joy to not only themselves, but our entire school community. And it's something that our kids are really, really proud of. Like, you know, an adult can get up in front of the entire school and there's still a whisper here and there, but when the Soar Singers get up in front of the entire school, it's silent, because they truly treasure them. So what we did, so where do they sing? So they, first of all, they practiced last year during Fun Friday, and then they did things like sing at our PBIS assemblies, sing at the Christmas choir, or the Christmas concert. That fast forward to this year, changed a little bit because we couldn't get choir and Fun Friday matched up. So instead, the 5th grade teachers decided to, once again, get creative. And while the Source Singers are practicing, the rest of our 5th grade students are doing community service. So you can see a couple of examples up on the screen. They're outside making sure that our community is clean. They're handing out thank yous to staff members, to students, putting up signs around the school, encouraging all of the SOAR things that we're looking for, right? Yeah. And encouraging staff and students alike. So it's a really cool, so we've got this awesome choir going on, then we've got this awesome community service going on, and it really has made a huge difference. So I like this year's model the best. And so here, this year's Source Singers sang at the Veterans Day Assembly. And that was a really, really special moment, I think, for them and for the veterans. Okay, before I go to the last slide, I'm going to let you guys take the spotlight and share with us. Do you want them to turn this way so that you can see them too? Okay.
There's more folks that way.
Okay.
People over there.
Okay.
Well, we'll be singing the national anthem, so if you could stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So not only are we highlighting the kiddos and the work they're doing, but I feel so fortunate to work with such amazing staff. Claire, you do a beautiful job with the choir. That is a very hard song, as most of you know. And the songs she does with them are so awesome and so engaging. And I appreciate you coming to me to get this started. And the to our 5th grade teachers for thinking outside the box so that we could make it happen. So one other little thing I wanted to note, it's not just our classroom teachers, it's not just our choir teacher, but now Mr. King, our, and you can't tell anybody this yet. Okay. Mr. King came to me and said, hey, I know sometimes recess can, day after day be a thing. That's where sometimes we have some little behaviors start. And so he said, what if I ran a basketball tournament?
Yeah.
What if I ran an organized basketball tournament during recess? So he's going to start with 5th grade because they are an awesome group. And he'll have some assistants that'll be organized. They'll do a basketball tournament. So just trying to think of not just the academics, but the whole child. Oh, he told you already. What do you guys think?
I love it.
So obviously you can embed a whole lot of teaching into both of these things, and that's why I think our staff is absolutely amazing. So thank you for letting us share with you tonight. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I know you all have other places to be, so.
Thank you all so much for coming. Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
There's the future national anthem hockey, you know, like there's always an APS student that sings all the hockey games.
Yes.
So maybe that's one of
They
the
could
futures,
do
right?
it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. Thank you, guys.
Right.
Okay. So I was just going to do a little debrief summary conversation about our Reimagine Our Future together, which we had 2 meetings last week. So just looking back, because there were some questions around timeline, I think people felt like we sprung this on the community. So I just wanted to take a minute to remind everyone. On the 6th, which is next Saturday, I think, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, it was 2 years ago that Anna and I met with Dan Wakeman to first talk about how we might approach the strategic plan. So since that time, we've been meeting with Dan regularly. The board met regularly to discuss strategic planning. In February of '24, a year and a half ago, we met with the community members to talk about strengths and weaknesses in the district. And from that meeting back then, we identified the need for a long-term plan for facilities and maintenance. We've met countless times since then as a board, as administrative teams, and the parent advisory committees and different groups like that, all talking about everything strategic plan, but in specific long-term, the need to long-term plan. So currently, right now, we have the Reimagine the Future project. We also have the nice to have list of projects that we've been working on. You and I toured Ella White not too long ago to look at plans that we're partnering with AMA to bring improved services and possibly some facility updates for our students at Ella White. So there's an awful lot going on around our facilities. And so this Reimagine, the whole purpose is to not be in a position where we have to come to this board and make a decision in the next 2, 3 months, 6 months, even a year. A decision of making significant structural change or programmatic changes, closing buildings, repurposing buildings. I feel that we've been clear from the beginning of this process. We are good financially. We're in a position where we do not have to make any decisions. And so why not take that time to look at the future and prepare for different scenarios? So I guess the great news is we have the attention of the community, which was always the intent, to involve the community, because after all, it is the community school district. And looking forward to moving forward with that and continuing to partner with them. So last week, we had 2 meetings where we rolled out 2 scenarios. Those scenarios have been in development since May, June-ish, and they are simply scenarios. As we stated at those sessions, this isn't a choose scenario A, it's not a choose scenario B. It might be, I like this piece, I don't like this piece. One doesn't lead into the other. Really, the primary purpose of the presentation was to get people thinking around what do we do in our context. And our context is we have been declining in enrollment for 50 years. And while we have, I just did some numbers, I think Phil Heimerl will run a story sometime this week. While our numbers since 2020 are up slightly, the 10-year decline that we looked at continues. So again, since 2020, we are up slightly in enrollment, but when you look at 10 years ago, we are still heading down on that same downward trajectory. So again, why not now take time to say, there's a pretty good chance that that trend is going to continue. If it doesn't, wonderful. But if it does, we would rather be prepared and have put some thought into how we might operate the district differently. So no, we're not looking to close buildings. We're not looking to cancel busing, which is a rumor that's out there right now. We're simply looking at the reality and trying to predict the future to the best of our ability. So we have 172 people have responded so far to the survey. So for those of you that have done that, thank you very much. We need more feedback. And I wasn't going to share it because sometimes when you share the results, then if people don't see what they want, then they'll go and vote to get it to the way they want. So I can share it with the board, but I figure we want to definitely over this next 3 weeks get more input from the community. We have great opportunity with so many events going on at schools, and thank you. I think I saw Diane back there for the suggestion of putting the survey, the QR code at all the Christmas concerts that are coming up, and just try to get as many people to weigh in on this survey as possible. So I have a meeting scheduled with King Scott for next week to just kind of debrief and look at the feedback we have so far. And then we're going to try in the next 3 weeks here, leading up to, I guess it's a little more than 3, but up till Christmas break, try to get as much feedback on the survey as possible. We can put it on the December board agenda as well, but it'll certainly be on the January board agenda of just looking at the feedback officially and saying this is what we've heard from the community thus far. We then go back to King Scott, and they have, a phase and a half left in their process to take that feedback and, come up with new scenarios, modify the current scenarios, do something along those lines. Again, the great news is we're not looking at a January deadline or a February deadline. We are looking 3 years down the road, 3 years or more, so we have the luxury of time. I think there was one other thing I wanted to mention, but it escapes my mind right now, so I'll just...
Go ahead.
On the trajectory, I guess what would be the trigger to, so let's say we run for 3 years at 3,600 students. I guess, where do you start to pull that trigger on it's time to make a change?
Yeah. So before I answer that question, and you reminded me too, we did do a enrollment study. So back in 2019, I think a 5-year study was done by the previous administration. And what happens is you get 3 scenarios: best case, least case, worst case, and then most likely scenario. So I had that redone last year, so that we now have 5 more year projections. And the most likely scenario over those 5 years is a loss of another 300 students. So that's roughly 8% of our current population. We have not yet done projections to say, if each year we lose 2% or something like that, when would we have to make decisions? Mary is comfortable right now that this year and next we are in no need to make such decisions. But once you get into 3 and 4 years, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to predict and do the sorts of things. But we'll take this time to look at the scenarios and then kind of layer it over with as we dive down and do some of those calculations and projections, we can start to come up with some numbers of If we get to this point, that's warning sign number 1. If we get to this point, it's warning sign number 2.
Okay. So it's not we could make a gradual and keep an eye on it year by year.
Yes, yeah, and I guess I'll say that again, just so everyone, we don't anticipate having to make a drastic decision in at least 3 years. And if we can prepare and make adjustments, as we move forward, then that horizon moves further down the road. But there is no financial crisis right now or in the near future.
And back to the subject of the information coming in, I just want to remind board members to do your survey if you haven't already. I did mine this morning. Yeah.
I was surprised that there were only 2 scenarios offered.
Yeah, we went back and forth, but, and I guess we could have done it a couple of ways. We could have held community forums with no ideas in mind, and we just felt that if we did that, we would come away, if we had 150 people, we'd come away with 150 scenarios. And so, again, they did their research. Sorry, cut myself off here. They did their research, studied our buildings, came up with scenarios as talking points, something for us to work off of.
So I got 2 things I want to bring up about this, and before I do, I want to say that I completely support the planning ahead for potential enrollment declines. I think it's responsible, it's necessary, I'm glad we're doing it, so I want to say that first. But I have to say I was really disappointed how this was shared and brought out to the community, quite honestly. Throwing out extreme or very bold scenarios to just, I think it was exactly, what was it, trigger a response, caused a lot of unnecessary worry. I don't know how they do it downstate, but I don't think our rural communities deserve that, quite honestly. And you could see in the meeting, it was nice how we were set up as board members. We could actually see the faces of the parents that were there. And you could see they were frustrated, they were confused. There were some that even left the room early in that presentation, and most of the questions weren't answered that they had questions to. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up is this weekend, I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm going to do a little looking into these numbers and everything. And I know back in April when we voted for King Scott, Board Member Costain brought up doing AI. So I actually got on AI and took some of the slides with the numbers and punched everything in and said, bring up a scenario if our enrollment continues to decline at this rate. Verbatim, scenario 1. I put in there, I want to keep Hinks. Can you bring up another scenario? Verbatim, with Hinks turning into the middle school or STEM program. I just thought that we could have probably done this ourselves, honestly. And I'm really disappointed. It took me 5 minutes to do that. And actually, it was really interesting getting on AI and putting in a bunch of different scenarios. And I have some really good ideas, actually, from it. So all in all, like I said, I support 100% what we're doing, but I think it was shared wrong. And I think that we could have done a lot of this ourselves.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen a little more depth, I guess, on what I think it was scenario 1, we're moving the 7th and 8th graders over to the high school. So they drop that, and they say, we'll have to figure something out. I guess I would have liked to have seen a little more info on that. What are we figuring out? What are the problems with that?
So I think that's what this time period is to do.
But the King Scott is going to give us that.
If we provide the feedback and the direction, they can go back and dig deeper with
So that is
with us.
that is potentially coming.
Mhm.
Okay, that was not relayed. I thought this is it. Sign the check. Thank you very much.
Not at all.
Okay,
No.
I did not know there was another whole. set of figures going into this.
Yeah, and I did that at the Wednesday, kind of went through the process, so.
Okay.
So the process is now they get the feedback to the scenarios, and then we integrate that feedback to what level we can.
I was making roping for Hanks.
You know, and it's easy. Sure, you know, now we could look at it and say we should have done it this way, that way, and all those sorts of things. I feel it's been very valuable. We've started a conversation, and I think that's valuable because if you look at the feedback we've gotten so far, essentially, if it involves how do you feel about change, overwhelmingly, they're against it. How do you feel about keeping things the same? Overwhelmingly in support of that. And we can go off of that feedback. And at some point, we will have no choice but to make those changes. So I'm hoping, you know, now that the initial shock, the initial whatever has moved on, because you can actually see it in the responses. After this initial wave of don't do anything, you started to get more people that say, well, I can see where this might work, but we want to think about that. So we started to get, you know, some more, you know, I don't want to, but there was more to the feedback other than don't do anything. This is the process. Again, we don't have to do anything, and that's the great news. But at some point, I'm guessing we will have to do something. And so better to have ideas and have the community input when we have to make those decisions.
And to Monica's point, I think that maybe now this, hopefully they will follow through. I think King Scott had discussed coming back to those questions that were not answered in the session, and I think we should hold them to that.
Yeah.
Say, hey, look, you know, these questions were asked. What about those? I'm hoping they'll watch the recording and, you know, pull those questions off, you know, off of that recording and make sure that they've got answers, you know, when they come present again. Yeah, I hope that'll get done.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I did have one other thought. I found this to be kind of an interesting process, and one thing that sort of fascinated me was this question of the plan of leaving the sixth grade out in the country elementaries and dividing up the grades in the city. And I thought, well, that seems to me, in a sense, like maybe an urban solution to an urban problem. Not that we're entirely urban, but you know, you get the idea. But then I thought, well, maybe that's appropriate in that you have one kind of solution and approach for the country elementaries, which are clearly something different, and then you have. I mean, it's a very interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed that part of it. I like the fact that we don't have to do anything; that we can just sort of cogitate on this, and again, that all important feedback from the public. I'm really happy we have. What you said, 172 responses.
Yeah, it was 172 just before it came in.
That's a good start. I would encourage the public to keep those coming, and we'll just go from there, again, without worrying about doing anything immediately.
If I can just highlight one other response, wrong password, but one of the questions is it's fiscally responsible to reduce the square footage of the school district. Strongly disagree so far in our results. So, and then the other response so far is, you know, it is important to maintain rural schools regardless of enrollment. I don't disagree, but when it comes down to it, at some point, we have to make decisions in any building, let alone rural. If there's 10 students in the building, is it fiscally responsible to keep that building open? We just went through this with ACES about 3 years ago. Building built for 368 students was housing 50 students at most. It just didn't make financial sense to keep that building open. So I understand, I don't want to see change. Nobody wants to see change, but this is about preventing those what-if scenarios, or at least approaching them as agreeably as possible.
I know, you know, all this is like kind of out in the distance, but is there any discussion about some things happening sooner, just to kind of, you know, maybe a little bit of a Band-Aid, right? Like, for example, this building impacting staff, is it easier to change something about moving administration somewhere? Or is it too challenging to do little things without knowing the big picture?
So the easy move is central office administration. That we can find a nook and cranny somewhere. But you're sitting on a very large piece of property and a building that, we want to make as few of those temporary moves as possible. May not be avoidable, but if we move central office to the high school for a temporary period, and then we decide that we're going to do something more longer term, was it necessary to make those changes? And that's all I'm trying to do is central office could pack up tomorrow and go somewhere else in the district, and then we could sell this building, or we could just shutter it for a while. And but I don't know if that's in the best interest of the long-term health of the district.
Could you put all the offices and storages that are here in the F house? That's what King Scott said, wasn't it?
That was one of their scenarios. So I would say, based on their calculations, it would make sense. But there's many things that have to go into place before you do that, because you'd be displacing students and teachers into different parts of the building. But in theory, yes.
In theory.
Yep.
Okay.
And I guess I'll take this opportunity too, because when we sold ACES, and now with Emmanuel having purchased that building, and then they're going to do a high school, everyone said that was short-sighted thinking. We cannot restrict the use of a building when we sell it. So we couldn't have put into the deed, that this could no longer be used as a school building. It's not allowable by state law. So if we sold this one as well, that would then make two buildings that are potentially available for someone else to come in and run schools. But even at that, it's still the right decision. And when the numbers make it the right decision, it does. But you just need to know that at some point, if we sell buildings, then they can be used for by other entities to become schools. And I did speak to the family of Hinks that donated it. Had a nice conversation with one of the family members who had heard we were selling it, and I said, well, no, we aren't selling it. We're just looking at the future, so.
Any other thoughts on this topic that the board would like to share or discuss? All right. Well, thank you for the presentation and the discussion, and thank you, board members. Let's move along then. If there's nothing further there, we have our time now for citizens or delegations to address the board. As I said last time, I think our guidelines for public comment are well disseminated throughout the community, even potentially the entire state. So I think everybody knows, everybody gets 3 minutes, keep it civil, and yeah, that's basically the important stuff. Do just state your your community affiliation or your area of residence, not your specific address, but just about where you live. Thank you very much. Let's begin.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nathan Skibby. I'm a Hink parent and a Hink husband. Hopefully a Hink parent a couple more times. Observations from the meeting I missed, unfortunately, on Monday the 17th, and then the following meeting on the 19th in regards to the King Scott presentation and scenarios 1 and 2. I appreciate some of the board members' comments as to the uniqueness of scenarios 1 and 2 being the only scenarios pushed. Bold is one thing, but bold with a common denominator that has more or less a similar function towards, and it is a bias, towards a school of choice for myself and obviously employment for my wife. Things start to sway there. I noticed the things I noticed through that presentation were basically the framework that started the conversation. Square footage costs, gross square footage costs, the transportation conundrum, and the declining student body, all of which are very valid concerns. Transportation conundrum is you can't make 604 square miles a smaller space. But one thing that did come up in the first meeting that I heard Dr. Rabidow say is that in comparison to the 7 other largest districts within the state, we only receive 75% of the funding that those districts receive. That I would implore, that would be one of the first steps that I think that would be a valid one, is to explore why that 25% isn't on the table for us. That being said, you could also then look at some other options as to, I thought that the 6th grade conversation was a very valid one. When I went through elementary school, 6th grade, it was K through 6. Was just fine. If we look at the history of APS, 6th grade was probably cut out because they needed the justification for the square footage of the current junior high. So now we've kind of done an about face on that topic. But I think that has some validity. Obviously, here we are at Gordon Road. I also agreed there are gems in that scenarios, even as much as I disagree with both of them on their merit. Get out of this building. Save that 15,000 square foot, whether it's upstairs, unfortunately, with the unusable space for education at Lincoln or at F House that was previously mentioned. Hinks is a wonderful place. Place-based education has merit. I've been working on place-based education through Nemi Gleason as my time as supervisor for a lot of years. We have opportunities throughout our community. All the schools in our district could go to Hinks. It doesn't mean that it has to be a magnet school just for that singular purpose. And also looking at the ease for parents. Besser is popular because it houses busing and gives affordability and opportunities for parents within the urban setting. But you have M32 bus garage, sell it, get it on the market, get this on the market, fix things. The tax base is what you need. So there's my 3 minutes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
My name is Bruce Heath, and I'm a resident of Ossining. And a couple topics I'd like to talk about today. The Michigan State School Board approved sex education to be moved into health education. That's a disaster, in my humble opinion. And I don't think this conservative community is going to enjoy having the transgender LGBTQ+ made mandatory to be taught to every student. And I think that the board should look very carefully about not employing that curriculum and standing up to the Michigan State School Board and say, no, we're not going to do this. It's not for our community. I was listening to the retreat that you had, and several nuggets came out to me that were very interesting. One was, I think 48% of the teachers had 5 or 8 years or less time at the school district. That means we got a problem retaining teachers at the school district. And I've also seen that in this administration's tenure, the scores have fallen rapidly, and nothing's really being done. We don't have a summer school remediation program for students that need help, and we got a lot of students in this school district that need help. And I think that we need to look at who the coach is in this administration. You can't fire everybody on the school board. I think we need to look at the coach and see what kind of job he's doing, because I think the results don't warrant his continual contract. I think we need to have some emergency changes in curriculum, teaching phonics, and get after these kids, because 1 to 2% each year isn't going to cut it for this school district. We're losing badly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to touch on as many of these topics as I can with the 3 minutes that I've got. Okay. Should any one person or
Sir,
group
would you
of
state
people-
your would you state your
Okay,
name?
Yep. My name is Adam Minton, and I live in Alpena city limits. So, should any one group of people or a single person be allowed to come into our school districts and change or teach their personal beliefs? I think we can all agree that answer should be no. Okay, school should be fact-based. Okay, so over this past week, I watched the interim state superintendent, Dr. Sue Carnell, be questioned by Oversight Chair Rep. DeBoyle. Okay, he asked her, how many genders are there? And at first she refused to answer. So he asked her again. And her response was, different people have different beliefs on that. So since when is our schools in any state in this nation teaching beliefs, right? We should be teaching facts, fact-based, okay? And even the U.S. Supreme Court recently ruled that even transgender individuals have to have their sex that they were assigned at birth on their passports, okay? So now, I understand those people may be confused. They may feel that this is what they need, okay? And that's their prerogative, what they do in their home. I don't seek to make decisions for anybody else, and I don't seek to control what they do, okay? But that doesn't give them the right to force it on the rest of us who don't believe in that, okay? Maybe the answer is restrooms, an additional set of restrooms for those individuals, additional set of locker rooms, whatever the case may be. But there's definitely some privacy policy that needs to be passed, for sure. So, and I think we can all agree there's not a baby that's been born, okay, that can say, hey, I born in the wrong body, okay? No baby even knows what a body is when they're born. So that just goes to show that that's something that's taught. That's something that's cultivated and believed. So I think we need to keep that out of our school system. We need to be a fact-based so that these kids, when they get into regular society, know what facts are, know what beliefs are. And so I'm going to leave it at that. But anyway, if it were me and I had the choice, I think truly we need a new superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan French, Alpena County, 2 children in the Alpena Public Schools. At the last board meeting, the president suggested that people might consider, quote, seeking outside counsel before making a speech. So I did just that. I reached out to an out-of-state lawyer that specializes in constitutional law. He sent the following. Quote, in New York Times versus Sullivan, the United States Supreme Court held that public officials may not silence criticism by threatening defamation lawsuits. When citizens speak about the conduct of public officials, including school board members, the First Amendment gives that speech the highest level of protection. To prove defamation, a public official must show not only that a statement was false, but that was made with actual malice, meaning the speaker knew it was false or seriously doubted its truth. That's an extremely high bar, intentionally, because our democracy depends on parents and community members being able to question, criticize, and hold those officials accountable without being intimidated or threatened. It would be difficult for someone under any standard, let alone Sullivan, to defame one of them, close quote. Nothing that has been said at this podium by any speaker from either side has come even remotely close to defamation. And as far as I know, not a single speaker has been asked to stop speaking by this board, except when someone simply ran out of their 3 minutes. So while I understand the president's point that the second public forum can sometimes get bogged down with infighting, I struggle with the idea that he has, quote, unwavering commitment to the First Amendment when he suggests that people need outside counsel for something that clearly does not require it. Those words, in my opinion, were meant to intimidate people and discourage them from speaking at this meeting. So to everyone here and everyone listening at home, do not let these words prevent you from using your voice. Do not let them keep you from speaking your mind, no matter what side you're on. In closing, I want to recognize the student who spoke at the October meeting. Her speech was smart, well-crafted, and delivered with more composure than many of the adults who stand at this podium. She deserved to be acknowledged. Instead, not one board member mentioned her speech during your open discussion. Even one thanked the speaker that came before her while ignoring the student who followed. That moment says a lot about what these meetings have drifted away from, or what some up here have forgotten entirely: the kids. The mission of our school is to build future leaders. That student showed she's already becoming one, and this board failed to say so. I know not everyone up there will hear this, but I'm asking you sincerely to remember the students you're here to serve.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
My name is Chris Sanders from Lachine. And I want to say thank you to you, and I hope that since I can only address you, that you would hand that to the other board members. It's encouraging to me to see that we have a school district that is not in financial distress. And with my extensive background in business, I'm also encouraged to see that we're not waiting for an emergency to plan. Now, I may not be a personal fan of either of the two options that were put out last week, but I'm at least encouraged that we're thinking about it, that we're trying to plan, that we're not waiting until we have to have a fire sale to save the district. So I want to say thank you to you and ask that you pass that on to the other board members, that even though we may not like the two options, it's priming the pump and we're thinking about it, and I'd like to have that plan in place before we need it so that we don't have to make a bad decision out of haste.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Yes, come on up.
Darlene Alexander from Hubbard Lake, but I live in Alpena County. I just want to come here and thank you all for what you're doing and that I support you 100%. I also want to tell you to have a blessed Thanksgiving, and we do truly have a lot to be thankful for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Further public comment? Seeing none, we'll proceed with our meeting. Thank you all very much again for your engagement and for coming. This brings us to our action items, the approval of consent agenda items, and the recommendation would be to move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I would offer that motion.
All right. We typically don't discuss our consent agenda by its very nature, so all in favor of approval of the consent agenda, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Very good. Thank you. We have approved consent agenda items. That brings us to new business and our human resources staff update. Thank you, Michelle.
Yes, we have several new hires. We have professional staff Shannon O'Donnell, a special education teacher at Besser. We have Miranda Kinsland, a special ed teacher at Ella White. Rachel Weatherholt, a first grade teacher at Besser. And Mark Hay, a temporary CETE teacher at the high school. For support staff, we have Brandy Sweet, instructional assistant at Besser. Amanda Henwood, instructional assistant at Besser. Eli Irving, and a custodial at Hingston Lincoln. And Albert Fong, a relief bus driver. We have a couple of resignations, Alan Weinkoff, Lynn Tingler, and Jessica Harmon. And then we also have retirement. I'd like to say congratulations to her 27 years of service to Deborah Baylor, a lead cook at Alpena High School. And then we just need a recommendation for the 4 professional staff.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of the new professional staff after completion of proper certification, testing, and other HR requirements.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our charitable gifts. Sarah, take it away.
All right. We have Hungry Howie's generously donated 120 personal pan pizza gift certificates for student achievement valued at $840 to support the students of ACES. Tons of Suds generously donated laundry coupons valued at $80 to support the students of ACES. Domino's generously donated pizzas for the class prizes valued at $82.30 to support the students of Lincoln Elementary. Ella White Elementary received the following generous donations to support the Ella White Christmas Bazaar fundraiser. Walmart gave a monetary donation to be included in a gift basket valued at $100. Meyer gave a monetary donation to be included in a gift basket valued at $200. Fitzpatrick donated a cooler to be included in a gift basket valued at $200. St. Paul Lutheran's Church of Alpena donated clothing items valued at $100. Lincoln Elementary received the following generous donations to support the Pancake and Raffle Graphics basket fundraiser. Alpena Embroidery and Trophies donated a gift basket valued at $80. Jimmy John's gave a monetary donation of $200. Kentucky Fried Chicken donated 3 gift cards valued at $30. My recommendation is to motion to accept the gifts listed above with gratitude and a thank you to the donors in writing for their generous gifts.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yeah. Very good. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Very good. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right. That brings us then to information and proposals. And I believe we do have one letter to read. Is that right, Summer?
This letter is from Keely Resnowski to the board. Okay. Dear board members, let's discuss the pressing matter facing our school district. It is crucial that you shift your focus to the ongoing busing issue. While community engagement and positive interactions are important, they pale in comparison to the real challenges our parents face regarding transportation. Busing is not just a logistical concern, it is a significant aspect of the daily life for families, particularly for working parents who pay school taxes and rely on the system to meet their schedules. When parents' work commitments do not align with the school drop-off and pick-up times, it creates unnecessary stress and can hinder their ability to support their children's education effectively. You must prioritize addressing these issues by evaluating our current busing schedules, routes, and capacity. Engaging directly with parents to understand their needs and expectations will provide valuable insight into how you can improve the system. Additionally, exploring partnerships with local transportation services could offer more flexible solutions that cater to our community's diverse schedules. It is time to focus on tangible solutions rather than getting distracted by less pressing concerns like clapping or non-existent issues with bathrooms. Your commitment to serving our students and their families should guide the discussion and actions moving forward. Let's resolve to tackle the busing issue head-on and create a system that supports all parents effectively.
Thank you, Summer. All right. That brings us to the superintendent update.
All right. So as we heard tonight, some concerns in the community about what took place at the state of Michigan's Board of Education with the sex education standards. Just to remind everyone, the board in, I think, early spring last year, or of this year, reactivated our sex advisory committee. That committee is made up of, by law, 50% parents, but I think we're actually around 90%. I believe pretty much everyone, with the exception of the student and a pastor, I think everyone else on that committee is a parent in the district. But that committee's process or responsibility is to review our curriculum on a 2-year basis. We started meeting, and then the state started to renew their curriculum or standards, guidelines. So our next activity is to get together and go through that, ultimately making a recommendation to the board for the board to adopt. So just because the state of Michigan has done what they've done recently doesn't mean that we are currently doing that, doesn't mean that the Sex Advisory Committee will make that recommendation to the board. But that is the process. We should be, I would imagine, in December or January meeting, and then at some point after that, having a recommendation as to how to move forward. So then it seems like it must have been October. This is November. We had a gentleman pray at the public comment, and board members and members of the audience bowed their heads, and the board members were called to the carpet, I guess, for bowing their heads. So we had some conversations about getting a legal opinion on whether a board member could bow their head during a prayer, and the answer from Troon is absolutely. You don't give up your right to be a citizen or Christian or whatever else during a board meeting. And so when a board member or board member bows their head during a prayer, it is not an official endorsement of a religion. It is not, violating separation of church and state. It's everyone's right to do that. Don't quote me on the details of this, but essentially the only time you are truly acting as a board is when you vote. And so even in the discussion, while you're a board member, you still have that freedom. They went as far as to say, and maybe this will incite people, but board members technically could, pray during a meeting, as long as it's not during that voting part where the board then is officially endorsing. But I just wanted to clear that up because I had received some comments, and I know that it was a big issue in the community. That was not an endorsement, and you're within your rights to do that. So, okay, now into the scary part. I'm going to just address board calendar issues. We switched website companies some time ago, and every now and then issues pop up. Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. And so right now we are having an issue where the board calendar does not have the agenda listed. Is that correct? It's the event calendar that does. So on our website, I got it backwards. If you go to the events here, so if you go, from the home page, if you click on the district menu here, select events, and then you come down, you can see the board events. If you click on these, there's no agenda here. We're working on that. They were here in October, I think, and then September, and then they disappeared. We've been working to figure out what the issue is there. But if you go back to the home page, sorry, going too fast. Go back to the home page, select district menu, come down to the Board of Education, and go to the Board of Education calendar. And you click on the same events. The agendas are listed there, so you can access them there. So we're working with the company to see why, because on our calendar, it is there. It's just not transferring over to the public-facing calendar. Where are those at? So we got minutes, the calendar, agendas, and the schedule all here on the page. And again, that's from the home page going to the district menu and then coming down here to Board of Education. Did I get everything? Okay. Just a couple of things. I'm sorry that one of our speakers left. I just want everyone to be clear. We do not receive 25% less than the 7 larger districts. The money that we spend on transportation is equal to 75% of those 7 districts' total combined budget. So we are spending more than the 7 districts that are larger than it. It's not we're getting 25% less. It is we have outsized spending compared to those districts. And I just was doing some research this weekend. We are currently transporting 1,000 fewer students than we did in 2015 and spending $400,000 more. And so things to be figuring out. Could be fuel prices, cost of, labor and things like that. But it's, again, a data point that we need to better understand. And I'll just reiterate, we are not looking at doing away with transportation. I know that's a rumor that's out there, but no, we're not doing that. And, sorry, I'm really going here.
Okay. Actually, I just wanted to point out something that we've brought up before, though, that we don't get extra money for transportation given the size of our district. We get, I think you've said, the same amount that smaller districts, that have a smaller square mile footprint, even though they just don't have the challenges that we have.
Yeah, historically, you took it out of your per pupil, and my example was that I was in a 2 square mile district previously. They received the same amount of money as we did per student. So 2 square miles versus 604. About 3 years ago, the state did set aside money for transportation, so we currently get $270,000 to offset. But we still have $2.5 million in expenses. So it does help, but it's, still disproportionate.
Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that.
Yep.
If we have students that are outside the district lines, do we still transport them to that? That's no.
No,
'Cause
yeah.
I thought on their slides it showed us
They
going
misspoke,
everywhere.
yeah. So it's showing where they live, not necessarily that we transport them.
Okay.
And same with the schools where some move, they live in Wilson, but they attend Besser. We don't transport those students. And then had a bit of an almost an uh-oh moment when we were talking about the fire code that does not allow preschool, kindergarten, and first grade to be on the second floor. The next day, I went to do my fidelity visits at Lincoln and walked into the first grade classroom on the second floor. And had a bit of a moment, let's just say. So this law went into effect 7 years ago. So we are exempt from that. And the reason being, if the first grade classroom has a dedicated stairwell for itself, then you can do that. So right now there's an empty space next to that first grade classroom. If a classroom were to go into that space, then the first grade classroom would have to come down on the first floor. But because they are the only classroom that uses that stairway on the second floor, that's where we're exempted in or exempted out of that restriction. So just in case anyone is still saying, but wait a minute, first grade is on the second floor, that is correct. However, spoke to the fire department directly, and they verified that we are okay in doing that. I think that's it for me.
Very interesting. Thank you. All right. Then that would bring us to informations, comments, questions from board members.
The one night Mary isn't here. What is our transportation budget? I know I've seen the number, and somebody asked me in the community, I can't speak.
Yeah. So I'll just say it was in my update. But
Your update wasn't there this morning, was it?
It was. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I think I got it out last night, didn't I? Yeah.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I
Anyway, it's annually it's about 2.5 million. I think it was 2.6 at one point, but generally it's right around 2.5 each year. And if I could go back to one other point, I didn't write it down, but one of the perks of this job, of course, is being singled out as the person to fire, so I appreciate those comments. But I would ask that we do it based on facts. And I guess I'll plug in again. I just wanted to, one of the things that came up during the community forum was, what are we doing to increase enrollment in our district? And we are in a unique situation where we are taking students from, 4 counties, and those schools, the number of students that are there, there's not much of a pool of potential students in the area. But I think, having accurate information, and if we can all be, reasonable cheerleaders for the district would be helpful. Because we do have a number of people that are choosing to not attend our schools that live in the county or live in the adjacent counties. So it was said that once I took over, scores have plummeted, rapidly so, I think was the comment. We went over this data, and if you remember, on September 15th, it was about a 3-hour, 4-hour meeting, and so there was nobody in the audience when we as a board went over this information. 4? No, it was 5. 5 hours? So maybe everyone missed this, and I'm not in any way suggesting that anything below 50% is something to hang your head on. But when we say that, scores have plummeted recently, that bar is approximately when I came in, and I came in during COVID, the year that there was no assessment given at the state of Michigan. But you can see the trends here. There is one that has been heading down. Then it gets pretty sloppy. But to say that since 2020, take me out of this case, to say that scores have been plummeting is an absolute false statement. And that then rings true with anyone who wants it to ring true. And it's not an attack on me, it's an attack on the teachers, it's an attack on the students, and it doesn't encourage anyone to enroll in our district. So I would ask, if you're going to call for my termination, that's fine, but do it factually. And let's turn this around and say, we've got a lot of work to do. I don't think I've ever said to this board or the community, now we're in good place academically. We're not. But let's be factual about it. Our scores, there are some that are going down and have been, and then there are some that are going up significantly. But even at that, you see we're below 50% proficiency in most areas. That's not acceptable. I don't want to hang my hat on that. But to say that it's just plummeting is unfair and is absolutely disrespectful to our teachers that are giving every ounce they have in the classroom. And with that,
thank you for that background. It's one of the things, I'm very interested in this question of, the elementary, plans in one of the scenarios, because I keep wondering, is that an experiment that would yield better results for the city elementaries? And I think that as we think about that, and I'm hoping King Scott will say more about this in future meetings, but I would love to hear more of that attention to detail on the academic side, and what can we do about that, and will that yield some results? So interesting questions, but anyway, thank you for that. All right, any other board members? Information, questions, comments from board members?
Well, along the same lines, Eric, as you just said, I think it's fantastic that we started discussion. There's bits and pieces that people like, bits and pieces that people hate, and at this point, we're just learning. I've had the opportunity to talk to several members and several different people in the community, and some say, I like this little bit, I hate that, and that's cool. We have the opportunity to really have this discussion without doubling down on anything. But I do think it would be interesting, like you mentioned, Eric, to see some of the data on, for instance, the cohorts. If you were to do an upper L, lower L, that's not a new concept. Other schools have done that. So it'd be really interesting to see what the data looks like on that and how that does affect scores, especially if, we're considering moving forward with it. So there is no one scenario that we're looking at. It's bits and pieces of all of it. But to have some of that information as we move forward would certainly be helpful. And the community's asking for it. So I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was kind of would like to see, I guess, where that idea that aggregating the elementaries came in, because it doesn't play out in our data. Because is there 3 at Besser and LOY? Is it a 3-section school, each one of those? They don't beat Sanborn, Hinks, or Wilson. So that kind of throws a red flag to me.
And we can certainly dedicate time at a board meeting to talk about this further. So stop me anytime is my point. But you'll hear our staff say it would be great to be able to collaborate with other first, second, third grade teachers when they don't have those partners. So from that aspect, that's a positive, but does that necessarily translate to better performance? That's the question we're asking.
How do you ask that question without?
Well, go ahead.
I guess how do you pull that data point out of without actually moving all the schools around?
Yeah, and I was currently Schwartz Creek just this week, or it must have been last week. It's Monday, right? Yeah. They're actually going away from, they had K2, 3, 5. They ended up selling a building and then voting to go back to K5. So, and the quote in the article, whenever it was this week, was the results didn't pan out the way they had expected it when they did that. So, but King Scott said they can get, data to show that it does. But it really comes down to it's difficult to point and say this was the reason it improved or this was the reason it didn't improve, because we heard too the potential hardships of having to drop off at 3, 4 potential schools, and how does the community weigh that over possible academic improvement? There's a lot that goes into it, is my point.
Mark Twain said, there's 3 types of lies. Lies, damned lies, and statistics.
Yep.
Anything else from board members? We're going to really leave it there, huh? All right. Then if there is no... If there are no further comments from board members, then it's time to move to closed session for a personnel matter, but under the exemption clause of, that's 8H of the Open Meetings Act, Section 8H. So a motion to do that would be in order.
I would offer that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. It doesn't, well, I don't know, there could be action afterwards, yes, I think.
Yeah, there will be, but...
Okay, so we're going to stay in here, and if you would like to return after closed session, please feel free to do so. All right, so any further discussion on going into closed session? Hearing none, all in favor of the closed session, raise your hand. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, we have our 2/3 necessary to go into closed session. Thank you very much. And yes, again, to the public, thank you, and feel free to come back after we're done.
You can go.
There we go.
Hello.
Okay, we got the doors. Oh, but they can get in. Yes, okay, great. All right, well then we are back in open session. We have,
I will make a motion to
Yes.
approve the 2 leaves of absence requests as presented under the Michigan Statute Personnel MCL 15.268H.
Second.
perfect. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Show of hands. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, well, that concludes our agenda. Then that would bring us to our advanced planning workshop and regular meeting on December 8th and 15th, respectively. And then a look forward to January. And having exhausted our agenda, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.